What a year it's been so far. I've had my hands on so many phones. I thought it might be quite fun to do a bit of a 6-month check-in and really talk to you about which ones have been my absolute favourites. This is not going to be one of those definitive lists of this is the best phone because it has this best spec. It's going to be the phones that I've genuinely enjoyed using. Yes, 1-inch camera sensors and massive 7,000 mAh batteries, they're fun to play with, don't get me wrong, but just because a phone has the all-round best specs, it doesn't mean that it's going to be my favourite. This list will be phones that I've used from January up until now, so it even means phones like the Pixel 10 Pro that released over a year ago almost, they're still going to be in this list, but I'm going to break this down into a different few categories. We'll do Chinese ultra brand phone, my favourite fold, my favourite budget and mid-range phone, then my favourite non-Android phone, and then just what I've really enjoyed using the most overall. And because this is my list, I don't want you sat there saying, oh Paul, you're an idiot, how can that phone make it into your favourite phones list of 2026 so far? If you disagree with me, get in the comments because that's where I think we're going to have a little bit of fun on this video. But let's start first with my favourite ultra phone coming out of China. The phones that have released from China this year, they have been insane. The first phone that I reviewed in 26 was the Honor Magic 8 Pro, and I thought this could potentially be the phone of the year. Like, it had great cameras, it had an amazing battery, it had proper face unlock. Then the phones, they just kept on coming. You had the Oppo Find X9 Ultra, you had the Vivo X300 Ultra, and the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Like, these are all just on another level. And I genuinely think that each of these phones standalone could be phone of the year. But I do need to make a choice, and I was very close to saying that the Vivo X300 Ultra could have been the best phone out of China this year. But the video that you can take on this phone is next level. It's almost as close to the iPhone as you can get. It has a great look from its cameras. However, the details that it can take in the photos, it does let itself down a little bit. And Origin OS, while it is the best it has ever been, it still is a little finicky. So it only really gave me one choice, and it is the do-it-all phone from Oppo, the Find X9 Ultra. This is some of the most fun I've had with any phone in a long time. Trust me, I love the Xiaomi. The authentic looks you can get from its camera is one of my favourites. The phone design is honestly lovely, and I am obsessed with those volume buttons, and the display, yeah, it's next level. But the Find X9 Ultra is just the best at almost everything. It has the best battery I've used on any phone. The design is hands down my favourite ever design on a phone because, I mean, just look at this. And the camera, it gives you absolutely everything, and I don't need an excuse to be able to show you some more photo samples from this. You get master mode, X-Pan, the styles that you can get inside the camera, they are just great. It's the best 3x lens ever on a phone, and the 10x is just a step above anything that I've seen. And I've just had fun taking photos on this camera, and I just don't know if I'll ever get bored of it. Even away from the camera, Color OS, this is becoming very good. It's quite iOS inspired, we can't even deny that, but it is creeping into one of my top 3 Android OSs at this point. And I know, I said specs aren't important, but this is what an ultra phone should be, and I have loved using it. My only issue is that it is very heavy, and the screen, it does scratch very easily. And it stands out as not just the best Chinese phone that you can get right now, but I think this is possibly the best phone in the world right now. Okay, let's flip and fold onto one of my favourite styles of phones, and that is folding phones. You already know, I love a fold. They are fun, they're different, but they are very expensive. And the specs, they don't always match up with the price, so it does put a lot of people off these phones. But the last year has been a huge one for foldables, and there's still a lot to come from folds this year. And I will almost always have a foldable with me when I go traveling, because this is when foldables come into their own. The bigger display for watching stuff, being able to position it in different ways, this is what foldables are peak at. So I looked at the folds that I had, and sadly the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, that is completely out the question. Even though it has pixel snap, it's not a great fold. So it left me with 3, the Find N6, the Magic V6, and the Z Fold 7. And I struggled with this because every single one of those folds has something about it which the other one doesn't have, and none of them are perfect. But if I was to go off what I've used the most this year and the one that I've really enjoyed the most, then I'm going to give it to Samsung and the Z Fold 7. I have spent so much time with the Z Fold 7 that I couldn't not pick this. It's not the best, but the One UI experience is still my favourite. There aren't really any quirks to it. I love the multitasking and it's just simple and I just really like it, and Samsung really have nailed exactly what a foldable UI should be with One UI on the Z Fold 7. The Find N6 almost took this because we have an almost creaseless folding display, which is something that I just didn't think we would ever see. And then the V6, again, it was very close. It's the best cameras that I've used on a foldable. It genuinely is flagship level, and I equally didn't really think we'd see flagship level cameras on a folding phone. So you might think that picking the Z Fold 7 is a little bit of an odd choice. Yes, the battery, it's not amazing, and it doesn't have the best cameras, but I did say that specs are not what I'm judging this off. This is the phone that I've used the most, and it has all the battle scars to prove it, and it still is holding up so well. There is a little bit of sand in the hinge from when I dropped it, but again, it's One UI, it's the OS experience, that's what makes me keep coming back. And to understand why I love the Z Fold 7 so much, just go and have a look at the full review I did about a month ago. I'll link it above, and I think you'll understand after you've seen that. The best thing about a Samsung foldable is that it's only going to get better. It's going to take what the Chinese brands have done, and hopefully Samsung are going to be putting that into the Z Fold 8 when we see it a little bit later on in the year. But if I didn't pick the Z Fold 7 as my favourite fold this year, then I think I would have been lying. Let me move on to my favourite budget mid-range phone, and I'll be honest, this is probably the category of phone that I've used the least. That's mostly because it's very hard to use a budget phone when you review phones. So I'm not going to give you 20 different options of what phone it might be here. I'm just going to come out and say it that it is the Nothing 4A Pro. Look at that phone. If I could give out a design award, then this would win it because it is my favourite design phone of this year. Like, I don't think anything else is going to beat this. When I reviewed this phone, I said I kind of missed the transparent design and I didn't want nothing to go away from it, but the more time you spend with this, it just looks better and better. Nothing OS, this is a breath of fresh air, and the sound design on the notifications, it is so good. You get 3 cameras, a main, an ultra wide and a telephoto, and that telephoto, it can zoom in up to 140 times, and the photos, they're not good, but you can still do it and it's kind of fun. Within the camera, there are tons of styles you can pick from. The glyph matrix, it is different from anything else. It charges fairly quickly, and it might not be the fastest mid-range phone, but your other choices are a Galaxy A series phone or the Pixel 10a. If I didn't review phones, then a Nothing phone is definitely the phone that I'd use because, I mean, look at that design. And one day I just want Nothing to go like completely all out, completely lose their senses, put in the fastest Snapdragon chip into a design that looks like this, and without a heartbeat, I would move over to a Nothing phone. But this is my best mid-range budget phone of the year so far, the Nothing 4A Pro. Okay, I'm going to move away from Android phones for just a split second because I do have a favourite non-Android phone, and it's rare that I would get to speak about this on the channel, so just bear with me for a second. There aren't many non-Android options. You get the iPhone 17, which I think is literally what 90% of Apple fans should buy. If they don't want an Android, then it's way ahead of what the Pixel 10 is, and that's its Android competition. This is a very good phone from Apple. But that is not my favourite non-Android phone of the year. So you would sit there and think, okay, then it's going to be the iPhone 17 Pro. And you'd be wrong. I did do a video where I used it for a week a few months back, and I was obsessed with how the design looked. The silver one I think is great. I liked camera control, and the video, it is very hard to argue with. It's annoyingly good. But I did say that specs aren't everything for my favourite phones on this list, and because of that, my favourite non-Android phone is the iPhone Air. This is probably my most controversial pick in the whole video. A, because it's not an Android, and B, it's not amazing. It's only got 1 camera. The battery is bad. Not as bad as some people say, but the fact that Apple released a battery pack for this phone kind of tells you a lot. And iOS 26, it is what it is, but it is the slimness of this phone that just makes me never really want to put it down. Of course, I'm never going to switch to this, and I also don't think that anyone should buy it. It's $999, and for that price, it is pretty terrible. But there is something about how thin this phone is that I just like. I know on Android we have slim phones from Honor, Techno, and Samsung, and I've not used any of them. So the only slim phone that I've used is sadly an iPhone, and this is just a better iPhone than any of the other iPhones you can get, even though it's like obviously the worst phone. It's a phone you've got to use to kind of understand, I think. Before I tell you what my favourite phone of the year is so far, I want to go through some of the other wearables that I would use alongside my phones. For watches, it's the Pixel Watch 4 because this is the GOAT. I tried the Fitbit Air so I could replace the watch so I could wear my Casio, but I don't really like wearing something on each wrist, so the Pixel Watch is back. When it comes to headphones, for buds, I lean more towards the Pixel Buds Pro 2, and this is because I don't like that the Galaxy Buds 4 Pro gatekeep the best sound quality to Samsung phones, and I'm not really all in on that square designed case. And for over-ear headphones, I love the Headphone 1 from Nothing. They look and sound great, but sadly, they're a little bit too heavy and they don't fold away. So I always default to my Sony XM6 because they're kind of unbeatable for noise cancellation and they are just very, very light. And then we get to it, my favourite phone of 2026 so far. It doesn't have the best battery, it's not the most powerful, and it doesn't have the best specs. And a few of you might tell me that this is a bad pick, but it is the Pixel 10 Pro. I know, why would I pick this? It's because it's simple and it gives me pretty much everything that I need. The lack of power from the Tensor G5, it doesn't really bother me that much. The battery being inconsistent is annoying, but I can live with it. And I still think it has some of the most consistent cameras over the last few years. The pictures, they aren't the most technically impressive anymore, but there's still something about the way Pixel processes photos that I just really like. The size, honestly, is perfect. We have all these big ultra phones, but sometimes you just want something that's a little bit more one-handed, and that's what I get with the Pixel 10 Pro. And also, one of the other reasons that I keep coming back to this phone and why I love it so much, it might be a weird one, but it is Pixel Snap. Popping it on a charging stand at my desk, it's easy. I don't need to think about it, I don't need a case, and it's simple. It's what I like. I know a lot of people will say, but you've not really mentioned Samsung and the S26 Ultra yet, and you're right. And I think if this did have like Pixel Snap or Qi 2 magnets built into the back of it, I would probably switch to it. And also, I've heard rumors that we might be getting a smaller Galaxy S27 Pro coming later on when we get the new S27 series. And if that is the case, we get one-handed phone, it has Qi 2 magnets into the back of it, then I'm sure I'll switch over. But for now, it doesn't, and that's why the Pixel is still one of my biggest choices and favourite choices this year. If you'd said to me 6 months ago, okay, what's your favourite phone of the year going to be as we get halfway through it, I'm not sure that I would have picked the Pixel. And I do love the cameras on the X9 Ultra, but it's just too big and bulky for me. The Pixel is comfortable to use one-handed, it does everything I need, and it is the phone that I keep coming back to. And I think if you really want to understand why I like the Pixel so much, I just did like the full review of this like for the last 12 months. So go and have a look at that, and then I think you might quite understand why the Pixel is one of my favourite phones this year. I know I'm going to get shouted at for some of my picks here, but I didn't want to rank these by benchmark scores or camera specs. I just wanted to pick the phones that I genuinely enjoyed using the most this year. So it's over to you, and if you haven't shouted at me in the comments already, now's the time to tell me how wrong I am on some of these picks. But yeah, do get involved in the comments below. I'm ready to fight for my choices here. Before you head off, if you can subscribe to the channel, then I would massively appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if you do that, then I will see you in the next one.